What's up, everybody? How's it going? And thank you for listening to the Whatcast. That felt good. I gotta throw it in every once in a while.
Yeah, but wasn't it recently that you did that?
I don't know, and I don't even care. I'm a carefree kind of gal.
You're flying fast and loose already, Mateo.
Yeah, I am.
We're just starting out here, and you're already just throwing the rule book out the window. It's going to be one of those types of nights.
It is. It's going to be a fun one. Once again, I've come across something that I've never heard of, and I brought it up to you, and you never heard of it, so I thought it'd be a good idea to cover it.
Yeah.
It kind of involves a subject we're probably all familiar with, which is reincarnation, but to me, this one has a type of twist that's, I think it's right out of the old Whatcast textbook.
We have a textbook?
We do right now, and now we do.
Oh, fuck. That means you are all going to be tested. So you better get that textbook ready and get your notebooks and take notes. And you better not be texting in class. I will not tolerate that behavior. Yes, that includes you, young lady. Put your cell phone away. You're about to get some learning in.
We know how you youngsters cheat with those devices.
I know. And no unauthorized recordings of this recording. Please refer all interested parties to the original recording, and even uninterested parties, refer them to the recording as well, and make sure they listen the entire way through. It's imperative. Did I leave anything out?
No, that's good. I think you covered it all.
All right, cool. All right. Class is in session, motherfuckers.
So to be honest, man, reincarnation is kind of a scary thought to me.
Why, you got a lot of negative karma built up? You gonna come back as a dung beetle, Mateo?
Most likely.
Oh, you shit roller. You shit rolling son of a bitch.
I gotta draw a cartoon of me like on all fours, but with my feet up, pushing a big ass ball of poop.
Yes. That'll be the next Patreon sticker. After Mateo fucks sharks. You got dung beetle Mateo rolling a shit ball across the sky.
Yep. It's the sky. Yeah, he just made it way more interesting.
Yeah, because the sun is the giant flaming shit ball. And you're pushing that son of a bitch across the sky.
I think I'd be way more comfortable with the idea of reincarnation if I kept some type of memory. Like if you died and you come back and you're like, oh shit, I'm back, so I didn't get it right. So you can continue learning. Because it kind of seems like to me they just got to start with a clean slate every time, and I don't see how you're gonna.
Yeah, that's the thing, because you gotta play it through the whole time. You can't have the cheat codes every time. You got it. It's like on the old Nintendo games when you ran out of continues, you had to start from the beginning all over again. And unless you use the cheat codes, that's what you had to do. I'm sorry, Simon Belmont. You couldn't get past the fucking mummies. Go back to the first level and fight the vampire bat again. You lose.
I just had to restart my entire Borderlands free sequel game because I played it too fast, and I'm at a point where I cannot advance. I cannot beat what I'm fighting, and it's goddamn maddening.
I hate when you get to that shit in games and you're just like, fuck you. God damn it.
It's been a while.
And it's usually because there's something that you didn't do early on. I should have been leveling you up the entire time. Mm-hmm. Like, are you a Final Fantasy player at all?
I used to be.
Have you ever played any of them? There's every now and again in those games, there'll be a boss that you face where you've got this only one character is going to be the one that can really deal the damage to him. And typically that character is the fucking character that I ignore and just say, fuck you, I don't need you, I've got people I can do. And then it comes time and it's like, oh, you have to use this guy, you don't have a choice. And I'm like, oh, he's only level 5 and everybody else is like level 206.
Yeah, the Final Fantasy is famous for that. That's their that they're most famous for having those traps of where like, oh shit, I got to start over because I don't have enough fucking potions right now.
Yeah. Yeah. If God forbid you save it right before a battle starts and you can't go back and stock up on supplies, you're fucked. Pisses me off.
Already we're on to something that has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Because we're goddamn nerds and we can't help ourselves.
Well, back to this shit. This story is about a lady named Dorothy Eady. And she was born in 1904 in London, England. And she was a healthy little kid until she was about 4 years old when she suffered a bad fall down a flight of stairs. And she was so badly injured that when doctors reached her, they actually pronounced her dead. But somehow she woke up and almost fully recovered within an hour. She was talking and everything, sitting up in her bed and asking what happened. But she made a pretty speedy recovery. But soon after this, they would find her under tables and desks crying and sobbing. And when they would calm her down enough to get her to answer why she was so upset, she would just say that she would want to go home. And they didn't understand that because she was home. And sometime later, their family took a vacation and they visited the British Museum. And when they entered the museum, they had a big poster, a big picture of their Egyptian exhibit. And when she saw this, she yelled, "Those are my people." And when they actually got to the exhibit, she ran away from her parents and began kissing the feet of all the statues of the pharaohs. And she pointed to a picture of what was the temple of Seti I. And she said, that was my home. But why is it all broken? And where is the garden? And when she actually saw Seti's mummy, she claimed that she knew him and was able to ID him as Seti I. And she ended up...
Wow. Was she old enough to be able to read at that point?
I do not know. I've read a few things and I couldn't find her age when she went to this museum. But apparently she was pretty young because she returned to the museum so much looking at all the Egyptian stuff that she caught the eye of famed Egyptologist Sir Ernest Budge. And he talked to her for a while and thought that her knowledge of Egypt was fascinating. And he came up with the idea to teach her how to read and write hieroglyphics. And he said that when he started working with her, it was like she wasn't learning, but remembering how to write and read these ancient symbols. She said she caught on very fast, and she even said herself, as she was learning, "Oh, I remember," and would get things correct. So she continued her studies in ancient Egypt stuff, and at the age of 15, she said she was actually visited by what she described as the mummy of Seti I.
The mummy itself paid her a visit.
Yeah, that's a little...
That's pretty spooky.
Yeah, Tales from the Crypt stuff.
Yeah.
But again, she continued studying Egypt and was fascinated and felt drawn to the subject. And she ended up getting a job as a cartoonist for a magazine for, I think it was for Egyptian relations or something like that. So she had to work with a lot of people who were Egyptian at this magazine company in London. And that's where she met her husband, who was Egyptian, and they ended up moving back to Egypt, or he ended up moving back to Egypt with her in 1931. And when she got there, she kissed the ground and said that she was home for good. And now this is where her story gets a little weird. She started to claim to have visions as well as visitations from Seti again. So she would regularly get, they describe in many ways, visions, dreams, all these appearances of this Seti, and which was, I think, the father of Ramses the Great, right? If my history's correct.
I really don't remember. I'm no good with the order of rulers of ancient Egypt. I just can't do it.
But she said that one evening she was visited by a man who called himself Hor-Ra, and she began writing these pages in cursive, what they call cursive hieroglyphics, which is almost nobody.
What? There's cursive hieroglyphics.
Yeah, exactly.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's something that not too many people know how to do.
Would they just make it extra loops on the pictures?
I don't know. Make it extra fancy, a finer hand, I guess.
Yeah.
But over the course of a year, this Hora would visit her, and he would tell her the history of her past life. Now, when she said this, nobody really believed her. But then when she would write a new page, her husband one night noticed that she got up out of her sleep and went to her desk and started writing. So I think to me that makes me believe that she was having some type of dream and going to some type of trance and would write. And she ended up with 70 pages of her past life.
Like a biography?
Yeah.
Wow.
Her father-in-law actually walked into their bedroom one night and ran out of the house because he said when he went in there, he said there was an Egyptian pharaoh sitting on the edge of her bed. So whatever.
Well, that's kind of creepy.
It is. So whatever is visiting her is able to manifest in her mind, in her dreams, and in the physical realm enough for other people to see it.
Man. So what if what was being seen there was a tulpa that she created? Like, because of the, like, through her she's getting these memories, and the memories are kind of manifesting in like a tulpa form because they're coming to her and they just seem so real all of a sudden that she's like bringing it out of her subconscious into the real world.
Oh yeah, imagine what type of boost her mentality would have got moving to Egypt and being in this place that she's in love with.
Yeah. And seeing it through like the modern day, but having the memories of what it looked like in ancient times.
Mm-hmm. That has to be the type of energy that boosts the energy that's needed to make a tulpa. I mean, that type of elation that she must have felt being there and the connection and whatever homecoming she felt for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But the story that she wrote down told the story of a girl born to a vegetable seller mom and a soldier dad. And her name was, I'm gonna have to look this up real quick because it is spelt shit. It has shit in it, and I know it's not that. So let's see here.
Her name was shit.
Her name was Benthrashite, which meant harp of joy. And when she was 3 years old, her mother died. So her dad left her at a temple to be raised because he wasn't going to be able to raise her by himself. He was an active soldier, and he just wasn't going to be able to do it. She grew up inside the temple, and when she became of age, they asked her if she wanted to go out and see the world or whatever, or if she wanted to dedicate her life and be a virgin of the temple. And she chose the temple, which happened to be the temple of Seti I. Now, one day, Seti himself was set to visit the temple, and it was customary for them to put on a play depicting Seti's rise to power. And one of the parts in the play calls for a virgin of the temple of Seti, which was this girl. And during the play, he noticed her, and she noticed him, and they had a torrid love affair. And she ended...
steamy.
Yeah, steamy Egyptian love affair. I mean, it reads like a movie, right?
Yeah.
But she ended up getting pregnant, and she went to the high priestess of the temple and told her this, and she was like, holy fucking shit, they're gonna fucking kill you.
You can't be a temple virgin now. You done fucked up.
They told her that's an offense that's punishable by death. And she...
Yeah, not cool. Not cool at all, bro.
And back when people had a little bit more gusto, she didn't want to cause any scandal for Seti, and she killed herself. So that was her...
Well, that took a depressing turn.
Yeah, it turned out the way that like every movie about mummies in Egypt ends, right? Just like it. That's half the mummy movies.
That really could be a movie though. Like just that whole thing. Like her, she's like, my father abandoned me, and now I've got to become the temple virgin. But then she falls in love, and it's like the forbidden love affair, like Romeo and Juliet type shit.
Yeah, I wonder how long they had a love affair, how long he was there. Because if he was just visiting, he wasn't there probably for long, unless he wanted. He's like, I'm going to stay a couple months. I like this temple, and it's occupants.
Yeah, but if you're making the movie, you gotta really play up the love affair and be like, oh my God, he just comes to the temple to worship, but then they start making eyes at each other, and then one thing leads to another, and they start developing a friendship, and then they have secret kisses, and then things get real, and then she's like, oh my God, I'm knocked up, and then she's got to face the temple queen or whatever, and she's like, oh, you are in for a world of shit now. You should not have done that, and if you did it, you should have at least had contraception, because now you're pregnant, and everybody knows you're not a temple virgin anymore, and you're in a lot of trouble. And then she's like, oh, God damn it, this sucks. And then you gotta do the tearful goodbye with the guy, but in this movie, instead of just her killing herself, she talks him into doing it too, because if she can't be with him and he can't be with her, then they don't want to live, and they're just gonna kill themselves because they're dumb humans that are in love.
And that's what they do.
Yeah, it's what they do. They're just dumb humans. They if they don't get their way, they fucking Romeo and Juliet. All of them. Every last one. I've seen it. Like, if you guys were smart, you'd just lay eggs or something. Just lay eggs, and then when they hatch, you could just fucking leave them, and they can fend for themselves at that point. But no, you got stupid babies that just cry and need you to wipe their asses and feed them, and they can't even walk on their own. God.
Yeah, imagine raising that in ancient Egypt.
Yeah. Have lizard babies instead. They can they develop a special tooth so that they can get out of the egg their own damn self, and then they crawl out on their fucking legs.
And instantly start planning for world domination.
Yeah, and what squishy human babies they can eat. That's like priority number one. Squishy human babies need to eat.
You know what, dude? We should do a show where we list celebrities who we think drink baby blood because they're like 97 years old and they look like they're 20. God.
You would be surprised.
Yeah.
It's like 88% of them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think Cher is just a full-on lizard person at this point.
She's artificial lizard, though. She was born human.
No, yeah. They definitely transmuted her, gave her the honorary lizard skin. You can tell by the smoothness of her lizard scales that she's not authentic. It's not as rough and rigid.
Yeah, it's those lizard features are definitely add-ons. But I mean, hey, you make enough money, you can do what you want. You want to be part lizard person in a thong, you can be part lizard person in a thong. It's fine.
What would you do if you ended up getting a hookup with Cher and you wake up and for some reason her little cloaking device isn't working and it's just a full-on lizard person?
Well, let me tell you, I'd get a little excited. Like, oh shit.
No.
Things are looking up after all.
No. Don't panic, baby. Leave it off.
Yeah. Like at first I wake up and I'm like, oh fuck, it wasn't a dream. Oh, hey, lizard Cher.
Well, since I'm here.
I did. Where were you last night?
Gross.
Maybe for you.
I would have been like, you look like you would make a nice jacket. Then I'd rip its skin off. Like I'm known to do.
It's already been established that you fucking hate lizards and you think that they should all be destroyed forever.
Well, see, I could have been confused by her cloaking device. I would have confused that for wizardry, and then I would have killed her. Otherwise, if she was just a reptilian, I probably would have, got to work just like you would have and then left. But, I would have been waking up from a drunken night of passionate lovemaking with a 70s superstar, and I would be like, whoa, what's happening? And then saw the lizard, and she probably would have flashed a couple of times to normal Cher, and then I just would have started club smashing her head, screaming the whole time.
Man, that's savage. After she just made sweet love to you, you're gonna club her. What? Yeah. You're like a fucking character from Grand Theft Auto. You probably stole from her after you clubbed her too, you bastard.
Actually, I just would have took a picture of her ID to confirm or to deny some things,
Post it on Instagram. I just clubbed Cher to death, but it's cool, guys. She was a fucking lizard.
Podcast host arrested for killing celebrity, claiming she was
Yeah.
reptilian.
Yeah. And then he gets eaten by a lizard person in jail for being a bastard.
Yeah, you guys just never hear from me again. No release dates, no nothing. No trial.
No. No. And then I'm sworn to secrecy, or else I'll get eaten by lizard people.
Yeah, you
So I can't say a thing. I've got to keep doing the show and pretending that Mateo is here and just talk to myself.
you reemerge missing a hand, and you're like, that's all they needed to take.
Yeah. I needed that hand for so many things. Now I just have this stupid left one. Can't do shit. I can't even write my name.
Well, good old Dorothy ended up becoming.
Oh, fuck. I forgot all about Dorothy.
She ended up becoming the first woman on the board of antiquities. And in this new position where people of importance would listen, they discovered the garden at the Temple of Seti. And they did so by having her pointed out on a map. She said that there was also a long tunnel next to it that led to a sort of hall of records. Both were also discovered. She said
what was in the Hall of Records?
Records, ancient writings. There's something that I read about what writings were there, or what some Egyptologists said what type of writings would be there. But she said that in talking to the mummy of Seti, that he said it was important religious documents, and that every temple has like a record hall underneath it. But they actually discovered this. The garden was underground, and they found where the garden was. Right, she pointed it out on a map, and then she said, "Oh yeah, that's where it is." And they found it. And she goes, "Well, if you guys dig a little bit to the left, there's gonna be a long tunnel." And they found that. And she said there'll be a hall of records there, and they found that. And then she said that she knew where the tomb of Nefertiti was as well. And she said it was near King Tut's tomb in the Valley of the Kings, which was going against what everybody thought. At this time, they thought the Valley of Kings had been picked dry. But she said it was there, and they scanned the area in 78, and they found 2 seals of a well-known scribe from her time, and they were completely undisturbed. So in an area where they said that it was worthless to check, they were finding new things. In 2000, a new sonar scan showed 2 possible chambers in the area that she described. And in 2006, a separate archaeologist group accidentally broke into one of these chambers. They broke through the side of it. They found it to contain a huge embalming station, which I guess is indicative to a burial chamber being right next to it. So that very well may be the tomb of Nefertiti, but investigations or digging was halted due to investigations of theft of antiquities. But that's what they always say, and they'll have that sorted out in about 20, 30 years, so they can continue digging there and see what is there. But she just ended up being this lady they called Seti, the mother of Seti. She had a son. She named him Seti, and she stuck to her story. She said she continued to have visions and apparitions, and that was it. She died in 1981. She was famous. People loved her. They loved her story. But I love these stories that.
Yeah, with the stories where it can be, where they have these memories, and then based on the memories, they're able to confirm certain information. Like this one specifically, because she was able to lead archaeologists to a discovery that wouldn't have been found otherwise. It's incredible.
Multiple discoveries. Yeah. And she also talked a lot about how the Sphinx is a lot older than what they believe it is. You'd be happy to hear.
I like hearing that. That's because there's a lot of evidence for that, and we've talked about it on the show, and it's everybody knows about this theory at this point, at least people that are into weird shit anyway. But it's there's a lot of evidence to that, and the fact that she was saying that before it was cool to say that is pretty awesome.
Yeah. There's
Did she happen to mention anything about the pyramids?
I'm not sure. There's a lot. You can read a lot about her. She's talked about a lot of other things and worked with a lot of other people. she ended up translating some things that were found, some tablets that were discovered. I mean, she stayed active and did her thing until she died. So she was always working and working on stuff and doing her shit. So I mean, you can spend a while reading about her life, but she did talk about the Sphinx a lot. And there was something else that she worked on. I forget, but it was significant. There's a lot of people who shoot her down. There's a lot of people who say that she was just hallucinating or crazy and stuff like that. Which, I mean, what do you say to a case like this? I mean, these are one of my favorite types of cases because you're dealing with something that is old hat, reincarnation, and there's plenty of claims of that. And we've talked about that before on the show, and there's some pretty amazing cases of reincarnation, but this one has twists in it, like the discovery of multiple sites that are just undeniable. I mean, what do you say to that?
I think that, I mean, to me, it seems like a pretty clear-cut case of past life memories. Now, if you're looking for a non-reincarnation explanation, it could be something like the idea of the Akashic records, where all records of everything ever are stored like non-physically. Basically, it's like this cloud of information that exists detailing everything that ever was and ever will be and all that shit. But maybe she had a certain connection to this area that for whatever reason she was drawing this information out of the Akashic records, and because she was so young and she wasn't able to really control it or filter it, it started to come through as though they were memories, but really it's just information that she's recalling from another period of time. And for whatever reason, she feels linked to this character in this time period, and as a result, she's getting all this information surrounding this person's life and the area that she lived in, and is able to draw that through. But I mean, that's probably more fucking out there than reincarnation, really.
Yeah, I definitely feel like whatever's going on with her has to be something like that. I mean, there's definitely paranormal stuff going on. If she's receiving messages telepathically, if she's having visions and visitations, but I mean, the guy didn't say he saw an old colonial soldier. He said he saw a pharaoh sitting on her bed. So this is an apparition that other people are seeing. Her husband witnessed her get up and auto write in her fucking sleep in fucking cursive Egyptian hieroglyphics. But I mean, I think there's definitely something weird going on there. I mean, if we look at this case from every angle, I mean, let's start with like what you think it is, past life memories. Go into that. What is that?
Well, those are cases, and typically they do occur in young children. Usually by the time they're 5 or 6, they start to fade out. But they're memories of the person's past life, where they will recall. Usually it's a recent past life, and they'll have this recollection of things that happen, and they wouldn't have this knowledge otherwise, but for some reason it just comes through. We've talked about the case. I always forget the kid's name, but the one who had the fighter pilot memories and would go through the whole process before getting into a car that he would go through before getting into a plane in his past life. And he talked about where he died, how he went down. And they were able to find this dude's family and verify the information that this kid was saying.
Yes, I definitely remember that one, and that's one of those cases that you can't deny. I mean, they happened in modern times. They were able to confirm everything.
Yeah, it was insane, and he was just, a lot of the things that he would say were what this guy would say, and it really was really. How would this kid know this information otherwise? And I remember hearing another story about this set of twins. Well, they ended up being brothers. One was an older brother, the other was a younger brother, but they were twins in a past life, but they didn't make it out of the womb. They ended up, I think they ended up being aborted, and it turned out that it was his aunt that had aborted them, and then his mom ended up having them years later. But they had a memory of this, and they knew that, and obviously this isn't something you're going to discuss with your young children about your aunt having an abortion. You know, that's not a discussion that you have with kids.
Yeah.
But the two brothers, when they were younger, were taking a bath together, and the younger brother got really mad at him because his older brother had he said that his older brother let him go, and he was trying to hold on, but he wasn't strong enough and he couldn't hold on, and his brother let go, and they died. And his mom's like, "What are you talking about?" And he said, when we were inside Aunt whatever her name is. And she's like, "What do you mean?" And then he goes on to explain that they were both living inside of their aunt, and then something happened, and his brother got pulled away, and they were trying to hold on to each other, and his brother got pulled away, and then he got pulled away. And it turned out that his aunt had an abortion some years ago, but it was never discussed with the kids. But he had a memory of this somehow, and him and his brother were supposed to be twins.
Whoa.
And then for some reason they were born to their current mom.
Whoa, dude, that's weird.
Yeah, it's really weird.
So we can both agree that past life is something that has enough credible evidence that it's apparently something that happens.
I mean, I don't know how else you can explain when things happen where you've got these memories that you shouldn't have, and you have access to this information based on these memories, and it's all verifiable. It's weird. And I don't know. I mean, again, you could talk about the Akashic records, but why is it so specific to a single life in the past? Why isn't it just like an overview of events from the past rather than just one individual? And
yeah.
It doesn't make sense to just draw this information unless it's like some weird cosmic soul connection thing.
See, yeah, that's my problem. That's my problem with the Akashic Records thing, is that if it bestowed her with ultimate knowledge, why is it only showing her Seti the First in this?
Yeah, exactly.
And telling her this one story of this one girl, you know?
Yeah, and if we look at consciousness and the mind as being, I guess through science, it's considered to be the brain, but we can't find the part of the brain that produces consciousness and personality and things like that. So and then when you've got things like astral projection and out of body experiences, it kind of leads you to believe that the thing that is you, your personality, your soul, your consciousness, whatever, it's all non-local. Like it doesn't exist within you, but it's being broadcast through you. And if you think of it that way, and so think of the body as a radio, and the brain as the antenna, and the antenna is designed to pick up a very specific signal. And once that antenna dies, or the battery powering the radio dies, that frequency, that radio wave that was being broadcast into that receptor is no longer active. So then it needs to be rerouted, and that's in a lot of cultures that believe in reincarnation, believe that there's a period in time where you wait for your next incarnation. So what if during this time they're resetting the essence, the soul, and they're rebuilding a new receptor for it, and then the new receptor is created and you are beamed right back, but it's being started all over again. The show starts again with a whole new radio.
Yeah, that's something that we've talked about before as well. And I'm interested to see what develops in that area, because
but there's a lot of weird stuff I think we've talked about on the show too with people that get transplants picking up weird habits
Oh yeah, we
that
covered
they
that.
didn't have beforehand. And what if there's like some sort of thing that's lingering, that's picking up part of that original radio frequency, and it's broadcasting it kind of simultaneously with the frequency that's being broadcast into the original receptor. So you're kind of, it's like when you're between radio stations and one's stronger than the other, but you can still hear the other one kicking in every now and again. I mean, most kids these days are like, what the fuck are you talking about? Kids, gather around. Let me tell you a little story about ancient radio. When Mateo and I were kids, we had radio stations, not satellite radio, and not Pandora and Spotify and I don't even know the other ones, but none of that stuff. We didn't even have fucking podcasts. We had to stay up till 3 a.m. so that we could listen to Coast to Coast if we wanted to hear weird shit on the radio. But back then, you could turn a dial, and it would go. You'd be going through frequencies, and in between two frequencies, you would get static, and sometimes you'd be hearing. You'd be picking up two frequencies at once, so you'd hear. One layer would be talk radio, the other layer would be music, and they'd kind of go in and out of each other, and there'd be a lot of static, and basically it's something that you guys don't need to worry about anymore. God, I really hope that everything I just said was worthless and that you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. But I recently saw this video of these. They looked like they may have been like 18, but this dad has an old rotary phone in a box, and he unveils it, and he says, "You've got 1 minute to make a phone call," and they could not figure it out.
No way.
Yeah. Oh my God. It was so funny, but it also made me feel super old.
Oh
because,
man.
like they couldn't figure out how you would dial the number, and then they didn't know like how to send, because with cell phones you punch in the number, then you hit send, it doesn't dial automatic. It was pretty funny. But so I because I watched that, I felt that I had to explain the radio dial, and I probably just insulted everyone's intelligence, and I'm sorry, guys.
It might have been relevant. He took a chance.
It might have been. If there's any 16-year-olds out there that are listening to this that don't know what the hell a radio is, first of all, go do your homework and stop listening to the Webcast. Second of all, ask your parents how a radio works. And also, stay off the pot.
Yeah, don't do drugs. Eat your fruits and veggies.
Say your prayers and eat your vitamins. And always wear a Jimmy cap.
Oh.
Hey, man. Some parents don't tell their kids that.
You're right. At least they're hearing it somewhere. You shouldn't be 16 listening to this anyway. This is a mature content podcast, right?
Yeah. I'm sure. I'm sure they've never heard the F word or somebody talk about banging a lizard before.
A lizard share. A slizzard.
Well,
Cher's lord.
Yeah. Also, if you're 16, ask your parents who Cher is, because I'm sure you don't know.
And they'll probably say something like, "She's 100-year-old lady that's still smoking hot."
Whoa. Still smoking hot? Mateo.
I haven't seen Cher in a while, okay? But, the whole, if I can turn back time era, when she came back, I was like, Jesus Christ, she's taking a potion or something.
She's just eating babies now. It's the all baby diet. It keeps you forever young.
Yeah.
And if she could turn back time, and she's like, you know what, with baby juice, I can at least look like I turned back time.
That was the inspiration for that song. It was her acceptance into the club that they'll administer you the baby blood. The reptiles approached her. They're like, Cher, you've done a great service to this world, and you have the ability to lull people with your voice, and we're going to need that. So we're going to let you into our club. And she wrote that. If I could turn back time, that's exactly what that was about. She's like, I can.
It's all a vaguely disguised story of her eating baby puree with lizard people.
Oh God, how could you, Cher?
I know, you're a monster.
I loved you.
I love did you share? I love did you?
Okay, so let's talk about Dorothy being a hoax, being a sham. The only thing that I can think of when I think of this being a hoax is that, boy, the foresight on that little girl, how to start your hoax at 4.
Yeah. Yeah, that's to me that is the only way that I could say that would be the case would be if it was like an imaginary friend type scenario. And then she grew up and she was just completely and utterly delusional and maintained that this imaginary past life was real and started, like sometimes you make things up as a kid and then as you get older, it starts taking, like, staying in your head like a memory. And then when you talk to your parents about it, they're like, no, that's not how it happened at all. This is how it happened. And you're like, oh shit, I had a totally different picture of that.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that she was able to find those sites is, to me that's irrefutable. But sure, you could say it's just a coincidence. She knew that there were fucking shit under temples, and she's like, why don't you go under the temple? Because there's always shit under the temple. So we went under the temple, and there was shit under the temple, and it was crazy.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of stubborn, I think. And you're just, you can't accept that there's weird shit that happens, so you're just trying to look for coincidences.
Yeah, she had
Is there any evidence to suggest that she was a big fat phony?
Not that I know of. I mean, the only thing I can find is that people thought she might have been delusional or hallucinating, or that she had injured this specific part of her brain in the fall that could have altered that shit and messed her shit up pretty good. But I mean,
or maybe it just opened things up for her. Maybe it just shook the cobwebs loose and she was able to retain this information. Because a lot of the time with this stuff, the kids, when they're around 5 or 6, start to forget about it and they don't really have any memory of it. And maybe the fall enabled her to retain those memories.
Yeah.
Or maybe even have a stronger recall of them. And that's what was able to produce the Tulpa ghost pharaoh mummy.
Yeah, I don't buy it as a hoax, but as I said when we started, I got a little problem with looking at this just as reincarnation here. I mean, like you talked about with the little boy who was the fighter pilot, and I think that's an authentic case of reincarnation, or at least past life memories, because, I mean, I wish we knew what that little boy was doing now if he fucking tried to marry a 110-year-old lady or something like that. But I don't know. The fall is interesting. And if she suffered a fall like that, I mean, I'm sure they checked her out and she was okay. And I mean, she lived a pretty eventful life after that. She didn't seem to be crazy or anything like that. So I have to object with this fall. This fall brings question to me. She didn't start her life talking about Egypt. She didn't start her life being so uncomfortable where she was at that she would cry. And I mean, we have kids. Can you name a time to where your kid was so scared and upset that they went and hid under a fucking table? I can't. That's never happened. As a parent, that had to be scary as shit. So she didn't start off that way. So something in this fall may have, one, shaken something loose, like you said, jarred some memories, maybe a past life memory, maybe not a whole reincarnation like it comes off as. I'm glad you used the term past life memory, just some type of memories, the faintest touch of a reincarnation. But I don't know, when I read this, I just couldn't help but think of all the Egyptian myths and legends and their beliefs about the soul and what happens to it, how they're able to guide it and send it to certain places. And they even buried animals and mummified animals to have their spirits guide and protect the spirits of the people who have passed over. What if poor little Dorothy died when she fell? And what if all those years ago, Seti was heartbroken that this girl killed herself? I mean, because she was pregnant, he lost a child, regardless of how legitimate this would have gone. Maybe Seti was a super badass pharaoh himself and paid some fucking Egyptian shaman to maybe suspend this girl's soul. And when the appropriate setting and the appropriate person or place or time happens, her soul will be reborn. And maybe her soul jumped into this little girl at that point, because it almost seems like the girl that she was before was gone and all she knew and cared about was Egypt. If we look at all the stories, and we're talking about the movies before, I mean, that is the fucking Mummy movie. This guy dies. I'll resurrect you. Don't worry. That's a lot of Egyptian stories are like that. We'll meet again in the afterlife, or through magic, they'll figure out a way to resurrect themselves or one of them, and they'll find each other again. What if this was the activation of some ancient Egyptian spell?
Ooh, I like that idea. So it was almost it's more a possession than a past life memory.
Exactly.
Young Dorothy became possessed with the disembodied spirit of the suicide girl from ancient Egypt.
I don't want to say her name. It's when I read it, it has the word shit in it, SHYT, and I know it's not that, and I don't want to sound disrespectful. So, yeah, maybe that's exactly what I thought of, because I was talking about it with my wife. I was like, "How's this sit with you?" Because she's not into all the paranormal stuff, and she was like, "I don't." This is one of the things where I don't know where to put it. I'm just gonna say cool, because there's a lot of shit you can't deny there. But she made the point of what was there maybe had always been there, and that fall knocked something loose, but it doesn't sound like a full reincarnation. And then you said past life memories, but when she said that, I was like, so maybe this was some type of possession, and maybe it was on purpose, with how knowledgeable and how strong the beliefs the Egyptians had in the care that should be taken with the soul and the abilities it had after it left the body.
There's a lot of I feel like we've been talking about possession a lot on the show lately. And it seems like there is a lot of cases that might be cases of possession that wouldn't typically be thought of as cases of possession. And what if a lot of these stories with past life memories is a result of a possession? And so even though the kid who was the World War II pilot, if he allegedly the pilot died by crashing into the ocean. And what if the spirit of the pilot just happened to be back in an area where he was when he was alive, and he just went back? I don't know how ghosts work or how spirits work once they become disembodied, but for whatever reason he's drawn back, and then just by chance this kid and his family walked through the area and he jumped into the body of this kid. But the thing is, the difference here, I feel, is that in Dorothy's case, she retained all the memories, where in the other cases they don't. So if maybe in the cases where when the kid gets older, they don't remember it, maybe they're only able to hold on for a certain time typically. But for whatever reason, the one that took hold of Dorothy actually took over Dorothy and lived life through Dorothy's body, like a second chance. She killed herself the first time, and she was able to get the second chance when this little girl fell and got hurt, and it gave her the opening, that little crack in the shell that she was able to worm through and take control of this little girl and live life through her eyes.
Yeah, maybe that crack usually doesn't happen, and it was just this rare chance opening. The biggest question I'm left with after reading this case is why this little girl? Why was the spirit, or whatever, the spirit's the word I'm going to use, why was the spirit allowed, or not allowed, but why did it pick this little girl? There's been, fucking millions of people who died since this girl committed suicide. So why this little girl? I wonder what it was or what happened. I mean, like the dude in the airplane, and he could have had the medal of Saint Dookie Dookie in his chest, and that fucking made him able to project his soul somewhere else. Who knows? But why this little girl? So strange. And I mean, good for her. She worked it out to where she fucking ended up living in the rest of her life in Egypt. That most people dream of that shit. Most people who feel a connection with a place, most of the time they don't get to even visit it.
Yeah, like I wonder what would have happened if that kid were to have gone to like one of the places where he was stationed in Europe during World War II, or take a boat over the area where the plane crashed, if that would have done anything to magnify the feelings.
How cool would it have been if they took him to one of those areas and all of a sudden that little baby just started talking like a World War II pilot?
Yeah, dude.
That would be so
awesome.
Great. Goddamn, they're
just
firing.
Starts throwing it all, yeah.
They're firing glowers at me all night. Took me down.
Starts referring to German people as Krauts.
Oh, things have changed. Relax. All I know is that I hope I come back as a toilet seat in a woman's bathroom.
I don't think he can come back as an inanimate object.
Shit.
I mean, that sounds like that's what you're into, based on what you'd want to come back as.
Why you always got to do that? Why you got to destroy that? I don't fuck sharks either, God damn it.
Yeah.
I don't stare into your eyes. I don't...
Notice how I didn't say anything about fucking sharks, and he felt the need to bring it up. I think that there's a little too much protesting going on here.
There's a lot of Mateo fuck shark talk going around lately.
There has been, and I think it's because it's now summer, so the weather's getting nicer. People are going swimming, and they don't want to be swimming among Mateo's love juices. And frankly, I don't blame them.
Well, frankly, they're not going to be able to help it. Hey,
they might get pink eye.
Or pregnant.
Or both.
Thank you for listening to the Whatcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, iTunes, and YouTube. Enjoy the podcast. Get yourself a Whatcast t-shirt or a sticker pack. Who was that dude on that one episode? Try the links in Homie's page. All this and more can be found at www.thewhatcasters.com. Thanks again for listening and have a great week.